What's shaking, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast. We are going to be talking about some real estate. We're talking about some leadership. We're talking about business today, all in the hopes of being happy, healthy, and wealthy. As you guys know, that's what Let's Go Win is all about. And the two smiling, amazing human beings that are with us today are Glenn and Amber Schworm. They are passionate about helping everyday people create wealth through real estate investing. Having flipped over 800 houses with complete success, valued at over 60 million and counting, they know a thing or two about it. We continue to flip houses as we help everyday people change their lives by teaching them how to find, fund, fix, flip, and hold properties to create immediate cash flow and assets that generate long-term passive income. And who doesn't love that? What's up, you guys? Welcome.
Hey, that was like an awesome radio DJ intro.
I guess that was nice. That'd be tough to keep up with. That's good stuff. I like it.
I've been told I have a great radio voice, does that mean I have a bad face for TV?
Yeah. If they say you have a great face for radio, then you'll know that's a problem. So
you get the whole package, though. You're good.
All right, you guys. Well, obviously, flipping over 800 houses. Where do we start with number one? How does this even come about that, all right, let's go ahead and start flipping houses? Because $60 million and counting, you've done 800. You've probably, made a couple mistakes along the way, found some gold along the way. But how did number one start? Where did that even come about?
Desperation.
Yeah.
It came out of desperation.
Yeah, for sure. People always, almost all the time on interviews, people say, you guys knew how to time the market, because we started in 2007 and we started we bought a rental in 2003. And then we didn't really start flipping, thinking about doing that till 2007. And so we bought 2007, 2008. And so, we were $80,000 in credit card debt. Well, when I say we, I mean I. So I really Amber was attracted to my debt. That's what
Yes, I married him for his lack of money.
I had good credit. I built that back up. That's all I had. So yeah, so we started back in 2008 and or 07, flipped in 2008. And really, we just needed money. We just needed to find ways to make a large chunk of cash legally. And I was in a network marketing business for, 10 years prior to that, two different companies for 5 years. I've been an entrepreneur and a business leader my whole life since I was 19. I opened my first company. So I just knew that real estate was the way to make chunks of cash and also build wealth. Didn't know how, wasn't sure how. I just knew there were a couple of people on TV. Now that every station you turn on, there's someone doing it. But back then there was a couple of stations I was watching some of the older timers doing. I was like, if they can do it, we could do that. And we figured it out. We punted through it. It was blood, sweat, tears. Literally, we almost killed each other through it. And, it was brutal. It was
neither one of us really had a college education. I mean, Glenn he doesn't even know how to read a tape measure to this day. So
all the little dashes confuse me, Jim. There's a lot of different levels of dash that just confuse me. I don't have to.
But we had that hunger. We had the drive. We had the, kind of desperation that went behind the drive. And we did the first one and we made, I think, $17,000 after everything was said and done. Credit cards were paid off, all that stuff. And then we went on and did, I think it was our third house. Was it our second house or third house that we did? Third house we did in 33 days. And this is in 2008 when everybody's saying, get out of real estate, the sky is falling. We didn't know any different. We're like, well, we made money, so let's just keep doing what we're doing. And we ended up on that house, we made a $33,000 profit, and we got $3,000 over asking, I think, on that house.
Yeah.
In a bidding war. So, it just like what's happening now just kind of reminds us of when we got started. And I think this interim that we've had in the middle here, the last few years where rates were 3% and 4% was great, but that was abnormal. Right now, while everybody's freaking out, there's nothing to freak out about because it's really just the market normalizing. These kind of rates are more what's typical and average of a real estate market. And regardless of what the market is, there's money to be made.
I want to go back for a second, Jim, if you don't mind, to that first deal, because that $17,000, I remember when we were down to our last $1,500 in anything.
Oh,
like when we were all in on that house, we took a loan from a bank and then we used credit cards and lines of credit, whatever we had to do the renovation. We did all the work ourselves, except for we had one guy helping us paint. Jimmy was helping us paint, right?
The floors, I think. But
yeah. It's right. We had a floor guy come in. And that was it. Other than that, we did all the work ourselves. And I remember being like, we tried to sell it ourselves. We couldn't do it. Listed with an agent. We finally got it sold. I remember saying to myself, so I've got a mortgage payment on my house coming due. We have rent, or I had 2 mortgage payments due because I had bought the condo. I had gone through divorces, and we both were going through divorce from our spouses at the time.
Which doesn't add to the emotional chargedness of the situation.
Oh
at all.
yeah, oh yeah. And I remember thinking, we gotta make, like, I have payments coming. I have kids. We got payments, and I'm down to, I got $1,500 any place, anywhere. And if it didn't sell that month, I was in deep shit, man. I was like, I'm not gonna ruin my credit. I got to figure it out. And we went listen with an agent,
Mhm.
and we sold it. And like, remember, we closed like in the nick of time for the bills to come due, and we like got the money in and paid off everything. And then because we were using credit cards that were maxing out, and then we made 17,000 profit on top. I was like, okay, I have some breathing room. I can breathe for a little bit till we do the next deal. But that was a little bit of a terrifying start as an entrepreneur. I think people think, oh, they're successful. We've done about 1,000 deals now to date, just so you know, in our business. And it's been,
And we made some sacrifices along the way too. I remember that third house I was talking about, I had about $10,000 equity in my car,
yeah.
and I've had my own car since I was 16. So, and we weren't exactly getting along at the moment. We were, we were kind of fighting.
Not
like
the
cats
best.
and dogs. And I sold my car to be able to finish that house because we didn't have enough money to finish it. So that was a big deal. I remember crying when I sold it. But so my point is, though, as an entrepreneur, whatever field that you're in, there's sacrifices that you make, but those sacrifices pay off in the end if you stick with it. And I think that's where people really struggle is, you've seen those memes that say people think what success is the straight line from point A to point B, but really it's got all those mountains and ridges and valleys in between. It's a constant up and down, especially if you want to grow and scale and not remain where you are.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why we started with house one, right? Like, great, 800,000 houses, or you said now 1,000. My goodness,
1,000. Yeah.
it's growing exponentially. You guys have clearly scaled the business, which is awesome. But it wasn't like, oh, this is sunshine and rainbows and unicorns are flying out the first time. And that's what I want. I love when we get to hear these stories, because I want to take you back to that moment when you are desperate, but you're also clearly hungry.
Yeah.
You're willing to sacrifice. This is the perspective we all should hold on to as our business scales, because that was how you got the growth that you did.
Yeah.
So I want to put you back in that mindset for a moment when going through divorces on both sides. We're up to our neck in debt. We have $1,500 maybe to our name. We do have mortgage payments coming, and I don't know, child support. I don't know all those details. I don't need to, but shit was happening. Life was happening. And how do you stay, I guess, positive, focus? This is going to work, because that's not easy. It's dark. It's like there's nothing but haymakers coming at me. How do I stay upright and know that this is going to be the way?
I think if I could summarize, as you were talking about that, I actually put my brain in that mindset back then. That's been 15 years ago, but I've had plenty of those moments in my life. And, not even recently, we've had plenty of those times come in life. And I think just, you have to keep moving forward. I look back to that time and think to myself, we were so busy. I didn't have time to whine and piss and mourn about my situation. And if you sit around and think about what's happening, you'll quickly slip into a depression and a fear. You'll be overcome with that fear, and that emotion can paralyze you. And then you don't do anything. And then you start going down that hill really fast. You start slipping into the abyss where you're never going to come back from it. So I think for us, and I'm just speaking for me, but I think just, we just kept moving forward. Even, going through divorces is already emotionally charged, and trying to figure out we're a new couple. We're trying to figure out how to get together, and we're both strong as freaking oxes. We're both just determined and type A. We got to be right, got to be heard, all that shit, so it's all that, so we're trying to figure each other out. We're fighting. And I'm like, but the one thing through all that we kept doing, even when we didn't talk to each other for a day or two, is that we worked. We kept moving forward no matter what.
I would just like piggyback onto that. And I do think that was a humongous part of it, was moving forward. But I also think we both have a growth mindset, like personal growth mindset. And to get through a lot of that, we had to go through how many years of therapy?
We weren't in therapy at that point, though.
Not then, but as we kind of.
Oh yeah. 4 years of therapy, 25 grand and about 400 cases of wine. So that's how we got through everything. So,
but I think the issue that holds people back is they get stuck. They get stuck in that dark place. They get stuck in that emotion. And one thing that I learned that I really have always liked a lot, and I always kind of go back to, is feelings aren't right or wrong, but thoughts can be challenged. So even though you're feeling really, really bad, don't let yourself be led by your feelings. Let yourself be led by your thoughts. Cause you can say, oh my gosh, I suck. I'm no good at this. I'm terrible. I'm never going to be successful, but you can challenge any of those statements. Is that true? Yes or no? And, you might be feeling that way at the moment, but it's not, and it's okay to let that feeling experience it, but let it go.
So
And then get back
that's
into
good
the-
now. But when you think back to where we were,
But I still think we had that mindset.
nah,
Okay, we're going to argue right here in front of
I
everybody.
don't know. I don't know if we had the mind. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking back, my mindset was I just didn't want you to slit my throat in my sleep that night. That's really what that was about sometimes. I mean, shit, that was no, I look back to those times though. We didn't, you sound like a therapist now, right? You bet because we've been to a lot of therapy, so you know all that stuff. But I don't think we knew that back then. I just think that for me, I think we just stayed so busy we didn't have time to think about it. Because I'll tell you, the minute I sat back and thought about anything, we were busy. We were busy for a decade. Like we didn't breathe for a decade, it felt like.
We did. And I think what's different then versus now is we did always get out of it. Like you said, we kept moving forward.
Yeah.
So what helped with therapy was those time spans got shorter. And so
Right.
the amount of time you're stuck in that funk
Yeah, that's
does
that.
reduce
Yeah,
with the positive mindset.
yeah. For me, and I've always been a mindset guy, Jim. I've always been a guy that's, I'm the Anthony Robbins fan. I've been to the seminars. I've been to, that I've read a lot of books, and I'm always now I have self-help stuff I listen to in the morning. I have some things I listen to in the morning to get my brain in the right direction. Then I go right into a book that I'm reading. Every day I spend time on that. And what I find is if I don't do that, my day can go quick. And if I don't do it one day, it can lead to the next, and it's a slippery slope.
And oh my God, don't let him watch the news.
I can't watch the news. It just pisses me off. So I don't either side. I don't like to watch it. So
Well, let's be clear. No one should watch the news. And I mean that sincerely.
absolutely.
Like, look, pick and choose how you want to get your news. I'm cool with that. But
Right.
watching the news blindly, I promise you're going to be a cynical prick. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
yeah.
the way it works. I mean, clearly you're talking about moving forward. And I love the question that Amber said, which is it true? I ask this all the time, whether you were doing it at that time or not. It's such a good question because we do have these hardwires and we do have these moments of, darkness where it's like, I suck. Well, is that true? No, I don't. I'm just in this moment. I'm sucking.
Right.
It's like, it's such a good question. So you guys found a way to really create momentum, which has led to this, again, 1,000. I did quick math. That's like 66 a year, but that's not like you started, okay, we're going to go flip 1,000 houses. That's not how it started. And this is the lesson I want people to hear is like, have your vision, have your goal, cool, but know that it's going to grow. And if you want it to grow more and scale it, you can do that. Don't eat the elephant all at one time. It starts with a bite. And that's kind of what I'm hearing that you guys did a nice job of, hey, recognizing we need some personal growth, recognizing that we are doing pretty good at this. Oh, now let's take it to the next level. Talk to me about that a little bit.
I remember when it was right after we moved into our house, I was pregnant with my daughter and we had 10 houses either under contract or in the renovation phase for the sales cycle. They all
2 months. Yeah.
And I was like super stressed because I didn't want to be in the houses with all the.
Well, let's also say that Amber was always the project manager.
Right.
I was the deal maker, deal seller, business, employee, whatever. She managed all the projects. We have a different role than a lot of husband and wife couples do.
But at that moment is when we kind of we saw the chink in the armor, and the problem was we were trying to wear all the hats. And when you first start a business, as in any business, you're doing everything. You're coming up with the marketing ideas, you're doing the accounting, you're doing the deal finding or the sell. There's
You're
like
going to the copy place to get copies made to
Right.
distribute. Yeah, you're doing everything.
You're putting the bandit signs out. I mean,
Yeah.
you're doing everything. And at that point, things started to slip through the cracks because we were trying to wear too many hats, and there's a capacity issue. So, one person is only capable of doing so many things. And so we actually ended up losing some money on some houses because we didn't have the right people around us. So I think that was one of the regrets we have is we didn't hire the right people soon enough.
Yeah.
We kind of had that mindset of, I can do it better than the other person that I hire. I don't want to take time to train them. That's just going to cost me money, when the right person in the right seat can make you a shit ton more money than you could ever trying to do it all yourself. And when you finally like realize that, that's a big game changer. So we actually hired a project manager at that point and a bookkeeper. I
I
think.
love where you're going with this, because you even mentioned earlier jokingly that Glenn literally can't read a tape measure, which I go to that same school. I keep looking for the button and like read it to me. It doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't work.
I know.
But it is true. What you're saying is, look, we have strengths, we have weaknesses, and we have things that we're good at and we like. And isn't it really, it sounds so simple, but it is true. Finding your niche,
Yeah.
what you're good at, what you enjoy, finding those that you're not good at and bringing them to be a part of the team, and then not having overlap. It
Right.
sounds so simple, but isn't that the truth to really scaling a business?
You know, what was interesting is a couple of years ago, we did this thing called predictive index, and we actually use that for hiring at this point, even now. And both of us ended up being what's called a visionary, and Glenn was off the charts. Like they couldn't even measure him. And so he was off the charts visionary and off the charts risk taker. But what it did, that personality test, was interesting because it gave him like almost his personal permission to be okay with being that person.
Yeah.
Like he needs to, you can talk about that a little bit.
I mean, I have a type, right? I didn't know that it was like,
I'm not supposed to be this other
yeah,
person.
I'm not supposed to be good at details. Like I'm not good at details. I never have been, but I've always tried because I'm an entrepreneur and I've worked for myself since I was 19 years old. So 35 years of entrepreneurism. And I've always built everything out myself. And I thought I had to do that. And so going through that, it was a coach that we hired and they went through this process. And I'm like, he's like, no, you're normal. That's how all visionaries are. That's how Walt Disney was. He said, Walt Disney was a visionary. His brother was the integrator. His brother took all the ideas and made them a reality because Walt would bounce checks like crazy. He knew nothing about business. He wasn't great at it. He was a hot mess, but his vision created what we all experience now. And what's his brother's name? I forgot. Walt and was it Roy? Whatever it was. So his brother, but I've always been fascinated with that. And that I sat down and watched that on, actually, I had talked to a guy online who I was thinking about hiring as a coach. I did not hire him, but he said, hey, why don't you go watch, is it called Imagine it?
I forget, but
yeah, Imagine it. Not, it's on the Disney Channel, whatever it was, but it's all about the Disney story. And it made me realize that I'm okay being me. And this came in my 50s, early 50s. Like, I'm like, I'm okay not doing this and having a team of people around me to get things done. Cause that is who I am. And I think it was good for my team to hear it too. Like this, Glenn's purpose here is to have vision and then to innovate. So they come to me and say, because even in the first meeting, I remember he said, he asked some question of the team and I said, oh, that's a great idea. And I gave some quick idea and everybody, and the coach said, did you guys all see what Glenn just did there? And I go, what do I do? He goes, Glenn's already thinking a year down the road, 5 years down the road. He can't help himself. He goes, he just can't. And I laughed and thought, you guys don't do that? I'm like, no. I'm like, really? Because I'm thinking about tomorrow. And he's like, and Gary, my coach said, yeah. He said, no, this is what he does. So even this last year, we had a big thing where the real estate market changed. And our coach came to us and said, Glenn, you have two jobs here. You're the visionary, you get it going. You inspire, you create culture and motivation around here. But when times get tough, your brain goes to work. He said, how many ideas have you had as we're sitting here about how you can fix things? I said, about a dozen. So, I said, I can't. And he said, you have to innovate. Your job is to innovate. So I think learning what I had to do there as an innovator in a business, forget real estate, any of your listeners who are any kind of business, it's okay to be a visionary. It's okay. Matter of fact, it's great to be a visionary because the more time you can spend in that area, the more results you're going to have, right? 80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts. That 20% for me needs to be visionary and innovation. And even the past 6 months since I have done that, I've seen a massive change and a shift in our business and our culture. And, we flip 100 houses. We'll probably do about 100 houses this year in upstate New York. We live in Florida. So, we're, and that's, we've been able to build a remote business, but it's because I can be who I am, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes a ton of sense. And I'm sorry, Amber, I see you're about to say it, but how freeing that is to be okay with who you are.
yes.
And then know, okay, this is my zone of genius. This is where I'm going to put my work, and you get your bucket filled. So the 6 type of working genius Patrick Lencioni just came out with, if you haven't had a chance to read it, It's
No, I've read his
freaking
books. I haven't heard that. What's it called? What's that one called?
The 6 Types of Working Genius. Patrick,
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
one of my favorite authors, but he talks about this, right? The 6 different areas that we have. Which areas, there's 2 that you really fulfill you. Even if you're good at something, doesn't mean it fulfills you. That's the other thing, right? Like you
Right.
can be great at accounting, but it drains you and you're like, this sucks, man. Okay, cool. So Amber, you were about to say something. I totally cut you off, but as you were talking, I was like, oh, you guys got to know about this one.
You hit the nail on the head. I think you hit the nail on the head. And it's true though. Like my 9-year-old the other day was saying she might get out, stop doing ballet. And I'm like, but you're so good at it. And she goes, but that doesn't mean I like it.
She's 9.
She's 9. And I'm like,
well, she's 10 today. She's 10 today.
10, 2 days ago. But I'm like, how insightful for a 9-year-old to realize that. I don't think I would have realized that at 9 years old.
Something that we're in the middle of, we're doing this right now. So we had the blessing of having a nanny while we were building our business upstate New York. That nanny since has they've been dating our oldest son for about the past 4 years, 5 years now, 4 years. Now, let me clear for your listeners, she was not his nanny. Okay, so I want to make sure they were the same age. So it was for the younger kid.
Because we hired her.
Yes, I always clarify that because it's always a weird people like, he marrying the nanny or did I'm like, no, not that way. We're not that weird. We're weird. We're just not that weird. And so we had help around the house. Amber had help with laundry and with keeping the house clean and some kid stuff. And she had all that. We moved to Florida a year and a half ago, our dream to move to the beach, and we moved here and it's been great. We lost that. We lost that help. But we didn't realize we've been going crazy. And finally I said, someday we should hire a personal assistant. And someday has turned to the past 3 months of me saying, well, when we do this much business, then I'll hire the assistant. When we do this, and then
or do we really need a personal assistant?
Right.
When this calms down in our life, then we won't need,
Yeah, when this calms down, we won't need it. Because when this calms down, what would they do? And then when this calms down, what would they do? And I realized I say that every second of never. I say that every freaking month. I say it every week. I say, well, when this calms down, and I'm thinking, just like I say, when I get my email cleaned out, it'll stay cleaned out. No, it doesn't. It always keeps coming back. So we are in the middle right now. Just yesterday, I started looking. I said, is there a role where somebody could be an executive assistant and a personal assistant, help out with the housework, help out with some food, help out with some stuff, and then also help me with emails and help out with stuff. Hold the camera once in a while when we're recording, whatever it might be. And it was like, oh yeah, those are real things. So I talked to some of my team. They're like, one of my leaders he's Garrett. He's my marketing CMO. And he said, look, I work with a lot of top executives. He said, your personality will change. He said, you will change as a leader the minute you have somebody else take all that stuff off your plate. And we always were good about, like, I don't mow the lawn. We have people come do stuff around the house. I'm not a handyman, but we didn't realize that the stuff we were doing around the house, even just cleaning up, picking up, and all that stuff going on, and the kids, it's just so much. So we want to spend time with our kids. I want to clarify that for your audience, that's very important to us. But it's hard to be a great leader for your company if you're getting pulled at mentally in 100 directions. I'm trying to book a fishing charter for my brother coming to town next week. I spent an hour and a half doing that. My God, if I had an assistant that could have that done, I would have to think about it. When am I going? That's all I want to know. So, and then what just in the past few days has been really an epiphany. I know some of your listeners are probably like, well, duh. I'm like, well, for me, it just, sometimes I'm thick-headed. Sometimes I'm stubborn.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I didn't.
Yeah, I want to let you know. So I'm realizing that, gosh, I can spend the time being a visionary. I can actually spend calm moments instead of having thoughts while I'm racing here, while I'm doing this, while I'm picking this up, while I'm fixing that, or whatever. So I'm excited about that journey. We're just in the middle of doing that for us. And I believe that will be a next level for us to start focusing and spending our time in that 20% zone where we get 80% of our results by having other people handle those things. I've read about it a million times. I've done some of it, and we had the experience, and I think we kind of forgot how valuable it was. You slip into these old habits.
Yeah. And there's also something to add to that, as far as we get so busy working in the business that you don't have time to work on the business. Yeah. And when you free up that time, that's when a lot of the innovation and the visions and growth can actually come. And the busyness of working in the business makes you feel accomplished, maybe because you feel like you're getting stuff done, but it's really nothing more than busy work, when you could really be using your talents to do something bigger.
1000%. Look, any visionary listening to this, every quarter, go away a couple days if you can and watch how much your business will grow, because you can't see it when you're in it. You just can't. It's not possible. And my wife laughs at me because I could hang a painting. I could hang these things behind me. Do you know how much mental energy this takes me? I hate it. I literally
know. Me too.
Yeah. So, but it costs like $60, $100, blah, blah, blah. I was like, babe, let me tell you how much it costs more than that.
Yeah.
For what I'm not able to do. So I love this idea. I want to get into, just because if I'm sitting here listening and I have these experts, not only at scaling their business and growing it, but just if I was like, you know what, I want to get into real estate. I want that to be a part of my portfolio. Where would you tell somebody today to get started? If they were like, I want to have real estate in my portfolio, I want to invest in real estate. What's kind of the step one for somebody that knows nothing about it? Somebody's coming right out of college, knows nothing about it, but they got a couple bucks put together. What would you guys say?
You know, I think it depends on your end goal, what you want to do. We wanted to make large chunks of cash. So flipping is where you make large chunks of cash. We do teach at our workshops and people that follow us how to do it without using your own money. I'm a big fan of doing that, leveraging other people's money and time and not doing the work yourself. We did the work ourselves. Yeah, I think some of your listeners we should probably clarify.
Yeah.
We don't flip 100 houses a year. Our team now flips 100 houses a year. So
I think the first 3 we did the work on, and after that we hired.
we learned a lot of lessons,
Yeah.
including a bad back that's haunted me for 20 years, right? So,
and you make more money by hiring it all out.
Yeah. Just like you said about hanging those paintings on the wall, right? So, or the pictures, right? Same thing. It's just you make more money by leveraging. So I would encourage anybody to, think about flipping if you want to make large chunks of cash. But the one thing that if Amber and I could do over again, we would have started building our rental portfolio much sooner. We've only got about 50 houses now that we have. I say only, I know some people are saying I don't have any, but we about 50 houses, and we really would like to have probably 10x that, right? At least is indoors and rental, just to meet our residual income goals. And I wish we had started that earlier. That's the one thing we talk about a lot. So you can also do that without money out of your own pocket. It just depends. It helps to have a few bucks, a few shekels you can rub together. That's going to be helpful. Have some decent credit so you can borrow money. And for us, there are so many benefits to being a real estate investor, not only the income, but also the tax benefits, right? Depreciation you get to have on the properties. And then you have depreciation, and then you're always getting appreciation on the properties, and you have tenants paying down your debt. So at the same time, you have this trifecta happening at any given time that will build you tremendous wealth. Now, we also have a portfolio of about 15, I always say 15, it's like 14.
About a dozen, yeah.
But okay, now it's a dozen. That was 15 for now it's a dozen.
It was never 15.
She loves to correct me, Jim. It's an ever going battle with me, ever.
We
But
fired him from that business.
I'm
My son and I
JM.
run
I'm
that
not
business.
Jim. So since we're correcting you, let's just go.
Oh,
with
you're
that.
not Jim? What?
JM, but hey, look.
Oh, JM. Well, I saw JM. I thought it was Jim.
Now I can do it.
So I'm a complete moron. That's good. So good.
So we fired him from our short-term rental business. My son and I run that business because he was too distracting, and I've got that covered. So he doesn't really know the details of
Well,
that.
so how many do we have there? Smart ass.
We have like 12 and a half because one of them we're getting rid of, but yes.
I didn't know we're getting rid of one. Anyway, so that's good. So we have, so I didn't know that. But if your listeners want to have appreciation and if they want to have the benefits of cash flow and building appreciation, they could turn those into some short-term rentals. And that's what we've done for 12 and a half of them, apparently. So that's what we've done. And that's what we have for our, so that's another great way that we do it. Yeah, I know.
What I'm hearing is you guys have diversified the portfolio by saying, look, because real estate continues to go like this, right? It's going to go up 10 years from now. The homes are going to be worth more than they are today. This is really simple mathematics. This isn't like, there's no need to argue on this. In the history from housing back in the 70s to where it's at today, has housing gone up? Of course
they double every 20 years.
Okay. So the natural question would be, why not just hold? Why not just continue to hold? And I'm guessing you have many answers, but if I'm listening to it, why don't I just hold on to this, keep that rental income? What's the problem here? What am I missing?
There's no problem. I mean, I think you should. I think again, it depends on your goals. If you're someone that says, I need to make $100,000 this year, well, you won't do that in rentals. More of a slow play.
Slow. I mean, sometimes you need to flip, like when you have a whole team and a whole company that's doing it. And some houses are just better. Like we do hold as many as we can. Like and we're going to be holding even more going forward here. But sometimes as a business is operating, you need that cash flow, or you can make the bigger chunks of money and then use that profit to put into a rental property. So sometimes you just need it for operating.
Yeah, there's no problem to it. We do teach how to have property managers do the work for you. Like so you're not involved.
You're not the landlord.
Short-term rentals, that's going to require more. There's a lot more day-to-day customer service that goes along with running, hotels essentially.
But we 2x or 3x our money doing a short-term rental versus what we would get as a long-term rental.
Right.
But they have to be in the right location, and there's some parameters on that. And you asked where people would go. I mean, we teach this. We have a home flipping workshop that we put on about 9 or 10 a year. Usually we actually have one coming up. But I would tell people to find somebody that you resonate with. Glenn and I aren't like, we're not these like, it's coughing up a lung over here. We're not.
I don't wait for you to stop talking so I can mute for a second, but that wasn't going to happen apparently. Go ahead.
You see people online that show their Ferraris and their Rolex watches and their private jets, and maybe some of them really have them, and some of them are probably just renting them for a photo shoot. I don't know, but you have all these gurus that have also come up in the last few years, the last 3, 4, 5 years, and not to be insulting, but you could be an idiot and make money the last few years in real estate. Like you could have made a lot of mistakes along the way because the real estate market was just so hot. Money was so cheap. You could have made a lot of really bad mistakes and still been successful. That's different now. And what Glenn and I teach is to go back to the fundamentals of real estate. And there's always deals to be made in any market, but your strategy might need to be tweaked or changed a little bit to do that. So I would tell people to definitely find someone that has experience of time, that's been through a recession or two, that knows how, because real estate's cyclical. So that not just somebody that's been around the last few years, but somebody that's really stood the test of time, knows what they're doing, and find somebody that really resonates with you and has what you want. Glenn and I, like I said, we're not into all the flashy stuff. We like experiences. We like time with our family. We like to have that time freedom to do what we want. We like to not have to think about ordering from the cheap side of the menu, or, even if we want to buy a larger expense item, we don't want to have to think about it. Glenn and I don't really ever talk to each other about buying something like a lot of couples might feel like they have to, because that affects their monthly income.
Yeah.
If we want something, we just buy it.
Yeah.
One of the things you guys mentioned, sorry, Amber, if I cut you, I didn't mean to,
you're fine.
but you guys mentioned a couple times now, you have a coach. You're saying, look, if you really want to get into this game or any game, find someone that you resonate with. And absolutely, I will make sure to link in the show notes what you guys have coming up so people can connect with you. Sure. One of the things that you mentioned couples a couple times, and clearly there's a fun dynamic between you guys. I'm one of those people that my wife has begrudgingly always been a part of all of my business adventures, and there's a real skill to working with your significant other. At least I've found that, so that you can have pillow talk and not talk about the business at the same time, have a fulfilling relationship, run a successful business, but it's a skill. So how does that work for you guys? You mentioned therapy, which is great. I mean, I'm pro therapy, but what else have you guys found for anybody listening that's like, yeah, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my significant other, whoever, we're looking at working together. What are some tricks or tools or thoughts? I
know what you're going to say, and I want you to say it, but I want to say something first.
Okay.
I think that it's really, I just did a post on this. It's really crucial that your relationship is in a good spot going in. If you're already on the rocks and not doing good, and you think, some people think, well, we're on the rocks, let's have a baby, that'll fix things. You know what I mean? So people have the craziest ideas of how they're going to fix a relationship, right? And so I think if you're on the rocks and you think to yourself, let's start a business, that'll bring us closer together, you're going to kill each other. And you'll, not only will the relationship implode, but the business will implode. So that's number one. I think you've got to be on stable ground. We weren't, well, here I say that, and we weren't, but I'm telling you something, we're abnormal. I'm not just trying to tutor. We're strong. We're both really strong. And we had a deep love for each other. But even that almost didn't make it. I mean, if we're being honest, it almost didn't make it many times. It was like both of us had a plan B, like, oh my God, I'm getting the hell out of this thing. This is terrible. So it got to be tough. There were kids involved. So that got, it helped. But if you could be on stable ground, that would be a much better starting point. So I'd tell you to work on that. Now, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, and I think the very first thing that really helped us was, and this goes whether it's husband and wife, whether it's mother and son, whether it's sisters, like whatever partnership it is define your roles.
Definitely.
Because otherwise you end up playing the blame game. I thought you were handling that. No, I thought you were handling that. And then, you end up losing money and both of you are pissed off at each other. And so defining your roles and then supporting each other within those roles. So like Glenn was saying, I did all the project management. So I did the hiring, the firing, working with the contractors, paying the contractors, not paying the contractors if they weren't doing their work. And he did all the buying and selling and negotiating and deal hunting and that sort of thing. So we had kind of reverse of what's typical roles. And what I mean by supporting each other within their roles is it never failed. We would go on a job site and the contractor would just assume, oh, she's just some dumb blonde. I'm going to ask the man what he thinks. And he would always be like, you're talking to the wrong person. You need to be asking her that question. So he always supported me within that role, which I appreciated. And while I was trying to find my own strength within that role too, because being a woman in real estate, especially in that area of real estate, was kind of unheard of at the time. That's changing a lot. We have a lot of female students that are just absolutely killing it. But at the time, 15 years ago, there just weren't that many women in it. So that was helpful. So definitely defining your roles, supporting each other within the roles, and then just always keeping a growth mindset, I think was also really helpful. And always trying to improve as a person. But I think bottom line, therapy helped a ton, and learning how to fight fair and communicate.
Yeah, the fighting fair is we get to fight still? We get to fight fair. Okay, good. So that's good. We've come a long way with that though. But I think also, I don't care what business you're in, you can't fight in front of the customers or the team. You got to be very careful not to do that, right? Because if you disagree, you got to find a respectful way to step out of that situation and go, let's table that idea. I have a thought on that. And you're thinking to yourself, you couldn't be more wrong on that. But you don't ever want to have that conversation in front of your team. Because I think if you have to have strength and unity at the top. As leaders, you have to suck it up sometimes, and you've got to have that strength and leadership. Whatever business you're in, you've got to have that strength at the top. If they ever see dissension in the ranks right there, that's not going to be good for your culture. They're going to think, oh, we should all fight. That's what they do. That's not, you've got to make sure that you have that respect for each other at the top. I think that's crucial with us. That's what we were really good at, I think, in front of contractors and stuff. Because there were some days, JM, not Jim. See, I'm old in my glasses on to see that. So there were some days that we'd go to a job site and we had just had a knockdown drag out on the car on the way there. But we maintained our professional image in front of them, right? We went different sides of the house, but we did. So that's important.
Oh, you're right. Because what you'll also see, guys, within your team, they'll start to choose sides.
Right.
Correct.
Nothing good is going to come from this. Nothing. Good. I'm watching the time and my God, it's flown by. I want to give you guys an opportunity, whatever's on your heart, something you're like, JM, you should have known enough to ask me this question. What do you want to share with the audience? Make sure that we leave them with before we start to wrap up.
I think people are capable of much more than they give themselves credit for. I think the thing that holds people back are self-limiting beliefs and what I refer to as head trash. And that usually comes from either our childhood or some sort of traumatic life experience. So I would, I certainly have my own self-limiting beliefs that I don't, and I think that's a lifelong journey of getting past those, because what held you back 10 years ago may not be the thing that's holding you back now. So I think just getting out of your own way and I've struggled with a lot of anxiety in my life, and the more I can even question that anxiety, and challenge that anxiety. When I see my kids have anxiety, that's actually helpful to me to help them and help, I don't want to model that. So I think I'm kind of going all over the place here, but it really does boil down to getting out of your own way and just say yes to life, and if there's something that you want to do, go for it and take action and just be free.
I have a couple thoughts too as we wrap up. I think that for us, and maybe for some of your listeners, real estate is not about real estate. It has nothing to do with real estate. It has to do with the lifestyle that it can get you.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to for almost everybody. Because when people come to the workshops, we're always like, so who's here to learn about flipping houses and making money? They're like, oh yeah. I go, no, you're not. That's not what you're here for. You're here for some other reason. And I want you to really dig deep. So I'd ask you to ask yourself, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, why are you in that business? And can that business get you to where you want to go? Because, if you're not in the right vehicle, you won't get there. I always say, if you're the best race car driver in the world, you're Mario Andretti, and you show up to the Indy 500 in a go-kart, you're not going to win. You got to have the right vehicle. Even if you have all the right skills, if you're not in the right vehicle, it's not going to work. So if you're in a business now that's not recession proof, or you're not, if you're like, I'm not really making it, or I've been that business owner. I've owned multiple businesses over the years, and I know what it's like to be in a business where you're grinding and saying, I'm just not getting ahead. I don't get it. It might be the wrong. It's probably not you. It could be the wrong vehicle. It's going to cap out. Right. So for us, real estate has been that vehicle. It's been the vehicle that says, okay, listen, we can make large chunks of money, and that will enable us to build a business. People can get commissions and work for us. We can cover salaries and all that kind of stuff. And along the way, we can start buying rental properties, and that's going to build long-term wealth. And for us, and this is really where we are starting to go with our brand and with everything we're doing. We want to get to the point where people know that we are the ones you can follow to build a lifestyle. And because money will not bring you happiness. The more I make, I notice I don't get any happier. But it does take away the pressure, because I think money won't make you happy, but the lack of money can bring tremendous stress. And that stress, it's very difficult to see the path to happiness when you're thinking about money and you're stressed all the time. So if we can remove that stress and allow people to see a different way to live, to wake up in the morning going, if I don't want to go to work today, I actually don't have to. And that's a real thing. That's a real thing in life. And you can get there for us, we know that real estate is that vehicle for us. And that's what's been the game changer for our lives. Wish I had started much, much earlier, right? Oh, always wish you started earlier, but it's a vehicle to get you to a better life. That's really what it boils down to.
Well, it's cool with your kids, though. You've clearly, you said they're part of your business now, right? And you're leaving a legacy for these kids, whether they choose that path or they don't. Look, right. Your choice. But as a true visionary, Glenn, you've made it very clear, like, why are you doing this? You've said that several times. Why? Why are you doing that? Where are you going? And I think it's really important for people to ask those questions. You guys are awesome, man. This is to do what you've done, to have this cool, fun dynamic. And I loved when you guys were talking about, well, should I do this? Should I, as true type A's? Because my wife is type A as hell. So I was laughing about that.
You know how it goes then. You got to learn the yes dear phrase early. That's an important one.
I do want our listeners, because I think real estate is a part of every successful person's portfolio I know. And I would love for them, if you did resonate with you, to find what you guys are doing. So what would be the best place for them to find you guys?
Well, we do have a lot going on, so we tried to condense it all into one place. So they can go to glennandamber.com. Glenn has 2 N's, so glennandamber.com, and that has links to our workshop, our book. We just finished a really fun TV show where we took a student from start to finish on flipping a house. That was a lot of fun. We have links to our social media, our podcast, all that good stuff on there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I imagine at least my listeners, they're all looking to create more passive income. They're all looking to improve. And you talked about having a growth mindset. Clearly, that would be a good fit. So we will make sure to link that. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome. So much knowledge and a lot of fun.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, JM. I appreciate it.
I didn't want to do it, man, but
no, you got to do it.
Oh yeah,
it's so funny. I don't enunciate well. So Jim, I'm like, yeah. Finally, your wife corrected you. I was like, all right, my turn too. But,
no worries, man. I love it. Good stuff.
Guys, go check them out. Glenn and Amber Schworm. They're amazing. They have created a really, really cool life. And you can have the same if that's your vision. You have a visionary, you have someone that can show you how to properly manage these projects and so much more. So until next time, remember, your mindset matters. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, JM Ryerson.